Back to Mortgage Talk with Mark, where I'm going to have a very, very special guest on. He's not only a very good friend, but he's an expert in different fields. Got a lot of talent, and we're going to talk about a subject today that a lot of people aren't aware of. I wasn't aware of this topic until 4 or 5 years ago when Chris did some classes around this. And it's on the idea of an Enneagram, which he's what I'd call an expert on this Enneagram. It's very powerful information that we're going to talk about today. It's a little bit out of the ordinary from our normal conversation, but I think it's important to learn different things. And I think you're going to hear something in the next 25 minutes that you may want more information about. So welcome, Chris.
Welcome. Good to be here.
Good to have you back, man. It was what, 6 months ago or last year we talked about some things here in the studio.
We did.
And we're going to be live streaming today because we did have a little technical challenge there a minute ago, but we got through that. So we're going to talk about this idea of Enneagram. And I've done some work with you over the years in this, and I'm pretty comfortable with who I am, if you will, in this respect. But for the person who may be brand new to this, what is the Enneagram, which you'd call in plain English? So sort of give me a 30,000 foot view of that deal.
The Enneagram is it's a model of personality styles. It focuses on what could be called a personality typology, like the type of your personality. So there's a lot of things out there, or a few anyway, that have a lot of penetration into the market of this. So a lot of people have heard of Myers-Briggs.
Or the DISC profile, things like that.
Yeah, DISC. So I've always been fascinated with that. And I spent a lot of time with DISC, which is DISC, and
Right.
Each letter stands for a word that's a particular personality style.
Right.
And then I discovered the Enneagram. And as I started learning the Enneagram, I realized it was the motherlode. There's nothing like the Enneagram. It's a very thorough and complete take on personality and our style of how we engage the world.
Mm-hmm.
And the majority of this runs about, I'd say 90% minimum in our subconscious or non-conscious. So it's just how we roll.
Yeah.
Different people roll different ways. And about 95% of the decisions we make are influenced by this wiring, software and hardware that we have, mostly software inside, how our brain operates. And there's a lot of variety in it. And
tremendous variety.
Yeah, but it has massive influence on why I do what I do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's hardwired. A lot of it is, it's neural pathways in our brain are set up to accommodate these particular ways of interpreting the world. People interpret it differently, and we just automatically assume that our way of interpreting the world from a personality point of view is the most effective way.
Yeah.
Because why would we choose something that isn't the most effective way?
Right.
The fact is, we didn't choose it. We were born. We were born with it.
Yeah.
And so the benefit of being knowledgeable of what your personality style is from an Enneagram point of view. Ennea in the Greek is the word Ennea in the Greek means 9, the number 9 in English.
9 categories, if you will.
And then gram, so is like a picture. So the Enneagram is a picture of all the basic ways of negotiating life from a personality and priority and maintaining surviving in life point of view.
Yeah.
So really at the end of the day, the Enneagram it's wired in us from the point of view of survival. What does it take to survive? Not just like physically be on the planet, but to do well, to survive based on our aspirations. because we all go at it differently. And there's a total of 9 main categories. And each of those 9 main categories have 3 subcategories. So there's literally 27 unique ways from an Enneagram point of view to engage the world. And it is fascinating and mind-blowingly consistent in terms of fitting into this description I just said.
Yeah. My experience, with the Myers-Briggs, I've done a lot of those things over the years, personality styles. And because I've been in sales, I want to kind of know who I am and who other people are. And they're good, but they're sort of scratching the surface, where the Enneagram really goes a lot deeper into the being.
Yes,
And,
it
and,
does.
and to that said, a lot of Christians feel kind of cautious about it for some reason. What would you say to somebody who's cautious about exploring this topic?
Well, a lot of this is a lot of that is due to misinformation
Mhm.
or uh, non-useful interpretations and assumptions about some of the details of the Enneagram. So the history of the Enneagram, it really got going in the early 1900s in terms of its origins, although people have been fascinated about personality for centuries.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of what's in the Enneagram builds on basic personality principles that knowledgeable people, intellectuals, or learned people had a knowledge of all the way back to the 3rd century, for example.
All the way back to the 3rd century,
Well, actually, the 300s, which is technically the 4th
4th
century.
century.
But,
Yeah.
but yeah, there's things that were written all the way back to there about personality styles that is like a foreshadowing of what eventually became the Enneagram. And then there were thought bright people who decided to really work it more. This is, happened mostly started in the 1900s. And one of the big differences between the Enneagram as a personality style and other personality styles like DISC and Myers-Briggs is that it's sort of, I'll use the term crowdsourced. That's a modern term, but a crowdsourced item is something that opens up uh, openness to people improving the model if they see things that are incongruent
Mm.
within the model. And it originally was put together by a psychologist in mid 20th century, and he published it and then put it out there for people to use and to improve on if they wanted to. And there's been a lot of that. And because of that, also, people have uh, added their point of view on any element of it. And
Mhm.
then if they publish it or get it out there, then other people look at it and it kind of gets put through a process where people either buy it or they reject their idea. And over time, it has refined this concept to a, a level of value producing because of all this input, yay and nay, in terms of parts of it, they they've been able to. It is an uncanny, accurate uh, tool to use in improving your personal performance, well-being, understanding of how you operate, because it's got thousands and thousands of people who use it
Yeah.
and and put in points of view on things they think could be tweaked.
I
And
like that idea of
you end up with
crowdsourcing.
yeah. Now, your original question was why, in some Christian communities, do people look at this askance, think it has evil influence, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the key people who originally was putting this together, one of the people who originally was putting this together, had this. Actually, there are people who are looking at the precursors to this in the late 1800s, but it really got going, in terms of bright people looking at it and looking how to improve it in the mid 1900s. But some of them also worked on elements of the occult as another study, and then they would try to blend it with this, and so they would
Yeah.
write things that, for my money, are completely inaccurate. And it was only one or two people,
But
and so the modern Christian, especially those who are deeply committed to being right about everything and make a lot of noise about everybody that they think is wrong, have spoken up over time. And I'm saying that in a pejorative way, but there is some value to that, but it also has its own excesses. And so some people just got a wild hair about the Enneagram is designed to deceive, et cetera, which it's a tool. It's a
right.
tool.
And
It's
yeah,
a
to that,
personality. It's how to understand yourself. That's all it is. But it's a very well developed one. So then it creates a lot of value.
sure.
And anybody who takes the time to really learn it, the tool itself, and there are different views on how to use it and what it all consists of, because it's like a crowdsourced universe now. Like that's not true for Myers-Briggs very much, because Myers and Briggs put it down at the beginning, and said, this is it, or whoever did it, that was the name they gave it. And they presented it as a full and complete thing. And there's been minor adjustments on that over the years, but all the basics are still the same. And the Enneagram started being developed before all this was,
Sure.
it didn't develop that way.
But to that said, my experience in the last several years is a lot of amongst my Christian friends is a lot of people are more and more aware of this this tool, if you will, called the
Yeah.
Enneagram through the churches. I mean,
Yeah.
the classes I've taken with you, some of them are sponsored by churches, so that's encouraging to me.
Yeah.
But I also want to kind of break it down a little more specifically about these 9 areas, and I'll be happy to use myself as an example.
Okay.
Because through study with you and my own work, if you will, I'm what they call a 7. Yeah, as you know, Chris, you know
Yes.
myself.
I'm very familiar with that.
And my wife happens to be what I call 1. Not what I call it, it's what she is. And the type she is. And so at learning that with us as a couple, married couple, it's really helped me in my marriage to better understand who my wife is.
Yeah. So let's put words to those numbers.
Please do. Please do.
Yeah. So a 7, like a title, if you want to call it, like what's the brief explanation of what a 7 is? They're called an epicure / enthusiast. Okay. Now, some people have slightly different words, but it means the same thing as this, right? So, but epicure enthusiast is the most widely accepted from my understanding way to describe a 7, a type 7.
Okay.
So, what does an epicure or enthusiast do? Well, 7s love ideas. They love having a good time. They're generally cheerful. Their greatest fear in life is having to endure pain or suffering.
Amen.
They're looking to avoid that any way possible. And so there's a lot of strategies of the 7 that are designed to really explain that. And if you're not a 7 in what is almost a humorous way, and if you are a 7 can be sort of a revelation that is arresting, it's like, oh, so, yeah. but that's a 7. They have a good time. I love.
And they like shiny objects too. Shiny objects,
Yeah, they like shiny objects. Don't necessarily stay on one thing for very long unless they discipline themselves to do so. But otherwise, they'll get captured by another shiny object and put their attention on that.
That's right.
And
Daily here.
but they're they bring a lot of joy to the world if they're
Oh,
on their game. If they're on their game, I
yeah.
love hanging out with sevens. My type is different than that, but it's not that far apart from it. And so just sevens are fun. They like having a good time.
And they're usually good cooks, wouldn't you say, Chris?
Yes, sir. Well, you're an epicure. Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
And now ones are perfectionist.
My beautiful wife is a 1.
Yeah, that's a perfectionist or reformer. And so they really have a different orientation. It's a very different personality from a 7 because they're perfectionistic and things bother them that are, they're about getting it done right. And if it isn't done right, that's distressing for them. It's distressing. Now, if you want someone who's committed to getting it done right, and you have a 1 with some talent, that's awesome because they're driven to get it right. 7s, not so much.
Not so
When
much.
they're having a good time, they can,
Easy come, easy go.
Yeah. So, and I'm being a little exaggerated on this, but not much. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I hear you.
people learn their type, they learn how to adjust for their natural orientation. I mean, we're born with these tendencies, all right? 27 different ones and 9 major frames of it. And so it isn't like we decided to do it. We just responded to these subconscious and non-conscious ways of interpreting the world. And it just seemed like the right way to do it. And then as you get older, and especially if you get into committed relationships of any kind, friendship, marriage, whatever, then you start noticing that other people don't roll the way you roll.
Right.
And you're wondering when they're going to get on board with the way to do it, which of course is your way. So that's obviously a setup for heartburn and not being as effective as possible when you have these kinds of cross purposes in people's minds. So to be aware of that and aware of the details, the fears, the tendencies, all the things that come with your particular type, you can learn that. And it's not hard to see that that can become a very powerful support for increased effectiveness in your work life, your personal life, easier to not get stuck on your way being the right way, makes you curious about how other people operate because you can learn things from them. You'll always have your own tendencies, but you don't have to be owned by them.
Yeah.
And if we're not aware of all these things, it just owns us.
It's funny you said the word curious, and I think that's a really important word to use here because there's 9, actually 27, if you will, total in these types, and to say curious is again, I'm just one of those. And with my wife, I'm always very curious because she comes at life much differently than I do. And it used to bother me, but not anymore. Now I embrace it. So on some level, I think this sort of work should be some sort of prerequisite to getting married. I mean, I think it would really help a lot of marriages if they went through this kind of study. Personally.
Yeah, I've done workshops using this for married couples, and it's a total revelation. For people. They learn why their spouse does the stupid things they do that are super annoying because they're wired that way, and they experience you with the same level of irritation sometimes because they don't like the way you do. And it's just how we roll. So if you understand that and it's in your consciousness and not just in your subconsciousness, then you can do something about it. You can identify it. You can figure out the real strengths it brings, that particular orientation. You can look at the weaknesses of it. And these are all really just survival strategies. It's like 27 different ways to survive and do your best to succeed in life. So
Well, we've covered sort of, we got a few minutes left, and I want to just do a brief overview. We've covered the one a little bit, the seven, my wife and I, but let's go quickly to the, two, three, and four. Let's go through each number real quick. Just get a maybe a
Sure.
15, 30-second overview of each personality type so people may sort of hear themselves in that.
Okay. So the first one is type 1 is perfectionist, reformer. Uh, they're about getting things done, and they're about getting them done well or getting them done right. When they when things don't go right, it's vexing for them. It's greatly disturbing. It gets them kind of off their game, and often they get annoyed about it and angry. So anybody who has a close relationship with the one has experienced a type one's anger.
Mhm.
Everybody has anger. All right. So it's
Sure.
not
I get
like,
angry too.
yeah, it's not like type ones are the angry ones in the world and everybody else is something else. No,
Right, right.
there are universal vices and virtues.
Yep.
And then there are particular ways they're expressed and particular stimuli for them occurring for particular people. So that's a type one. Any other thing you want me to say about that? I
No,
mean,
no, we only got a
I've
few
looked
minutes. Let's
at
go
books
let's
on
go
the
kinda
anger.
quickly through the numbers real quick just to get a quick overview.
Yeah, but here, look, this is one of the books
Yeah,
I've
I know
written
I have
on
the
the
book. It's
Enneagram,
fascinating.
and then I
Yeah.
have another one just as large. So you can go as deep as you want on
Well,
this
speaking of
rabbit
that, if somebody wants to reach out to you for more information, how do they get a hold of you, Chris? Because I know
email.
you do talks on this some, you do workshops and
Yeah,
whatnot.
email. It's KRIS, Chris at chriskyle.com, KRIS at KRISKILE.com.
Okay,
Now,
a lot of great.
this is amazing. It's very helpful for marriages. I remember coaching a couple that were on the verge of divorce, and I taught them the very basics of their types. And each type has a way to overcome its shortcomings. And,
Mhm.
like it's important to get things right, but it's not the ultimate end all be all. But if that's the primary way you interpret everything, it feels like it is the ultimate end all be all.
Yeah,
And sevens very commonly are unaware of their how they can be annoying because all they're wanting to do is have fun.
yeah.
What's wrong with having fun? What's wrong with enjoying life, right?
I
Well,
agree.
sevens have to really teach themselves how to stay the course on something that requires a lot of work and energy because
And
they'll
focus
go to
and
the next time.
discipline, you know?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think I'm a good starter, but I'm not a good finisher personally,
yeah, exactly.
you know?
That's that's how sevens roll. Now,
Yeah,
can you adjust or overcome that to a degree? You can overcome acting that way, but it's always going to be a temptation just in your DNA,
right,
and
exactly.
but you can accentuate the strengths and limit and overcome the weaknesses of each type. All of them have upside downside. No one gets all the
Yep,
ups. It's just different ways to roll. And some ways are more effective to roll in a particular situation, and others are not going to work well in a particular situation. So if you understand the details of it, then which aren't that difficult, then you can start noticing when you're in a rut of relating rooted in the fear that coincides with the greatest fear for your particular type, right?
yeah, and
So sevens fear pain and suffering.
amen.
Ones fear chaos and things not working well.
Yeah.
And someone who is that may deny that if you say it to them and they don't know anything about this, but it's just because it runs unconscious. It's just so comfortable. Like,
Let me ask you this question real quick because we only
Mhm.
got a couple minutes here, and I just wanna cover this briefly because a friend of mine here at the station, she's also a 7, and I was telling her actually, I've disclosed this to you, before that I don't wanna be a 7 anymore. I wanna be something different. Can you change your Enneagram
that's a great
style?
question. The answer is no.
I didn't think so.
But you can change the way you relate to it.
Right.
And you can change it from it running you all the time to only running you part of the time, and being able to recognize when you're in a non-productive uh, element of your personality, so you can shift off of that and choose to be another way.
Yeah.
Like you talked about sevens like shiny objects. Well, sevens, you don't have to succumb to that.
Right.
Like sevens, when they know that's their tendency and they want to
Oh, yeah.
do it, they can take a look at that. And there's very specific ways of being they can practice and adopt and be aware of that will help them transition from the unproductive elements of their personality to elements of personality that will help them counteract that.
Yeah.
And I get into all of that. It's the most phenomenal awareness and growth tool I have ever seen.
Yeah. Well, I'm grateful for the conversations. We've got about less than a minute to go. So leave us with a nugget or two that people can, think about.
Well, you can learn this at various levels. Sometimes people hear what I just said and they said, "Oh my God, that would take the rest of my life to figure out." And I would say, "Well, it can if you want it to. That's
Sure.
what I'm doing." But it doesn't have to be that way. I mean, there was a couple I was counseling, getting really planning on getting a divorce, and I got them clear in their type and gave them the basics of their type. And we had in 4 1-hour coaching sessions help them understand what was driving them in this, and turned it around, happily married to this day.
Awesome.
So
Well,
it's
brother,
very
we are
powerful, and you don't have to, get into all the nitty gritty details for it to be effective.
right. I don't know the nitty gritty. It's helped me a lot. So I appreciate the time, Chris, again. Appreciate the conversation. We are out of time, but